Hi there, so I am going to be making this week's Fakeaway video, which is the Chinese Fakeaway, and I will be making fried rice and I will be making sweet and sour chicken. But don't worry if you don't like fried rice, you don't need to make the fried rice, you can just make the sweet and sour and have ordinary boiled rice, or have it with some bread or however you normally have your Chinese. So to start off with, what we're going to do is get the rice going. So you take your rice pan and you take a measure, usually a small cup I usually put one of these in for every person that's going to be eating. So hopefully it's just going to be Neil and I that are eating tonight. So I'm going to take the rice in 1 cup, not very tiny as you can see, and a cup for Neil. Then for every cup that you put in, you want to put in a cup of water as well. 2 cups of water, sorry. So 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups. Love this water as well. Okay, so then what you want to do is put your rice on to boil. Put the lid on so it's covered, and so I use the no mix method of cooking rice, which means that you put the water and the rice in, bring it to boil, and you do not touch it again. I also believe in saving the planet, so I do this at the start before we do anything else, because what you can do is once you get the water up and boiling, you can leave it for 5 minutes and then switch it off, and while you're doing everything else your rice will carry on cooking in the hot water. You won't end up with the rice burnt at the bottom of the pan, which is probably more my motivation because I don't like cleaning off burnt rice, and your rice will be ready when you need it. Also means when you're coming to do the fried rice, the rice will be a bit cooler as well, or it'll just be break-to-eating if you're not going to be doing the fried rice. So we'll put that on to boil. It's cold water, so that'll take a little while. While we're doing that, we're going to leave that doing what it's doing. You'll listen out for when it's boiling. When it's boiling, then that's when you'll time your 5 minutes and then switch it off. But just now, it'll take a while to boil on my hob. So what we're going to do is get our sweet and sour chicken ready. So you'll notice in the recipe that it tells you to heat the oil in the wok and frying pan until very hot first. I would not advise that, because unless you are a really quick chef, then you're not going to get to use the oil, and you'll potentially just end up with oil sparking everywhere and a bit of a smell in the kitchen. So don't start that way. What I'm going to start with is by doing step 2, which is getting the batter ready for the chicken. So what you want to do first is get 1 bowl and put in your corn flour. So as it says, you want 3 tablespoons of corn flour. Just put that. 1, give them good tablespoons. 1 to 3 tablespoons of corn flour. That's the first thing your chicken will go into. The second thing will be your egg. Now, every time I get an egg, what I do is test it in some water. Give me 1 second. So before you use your eggs, what you want to do is make sure that they're fresh. So if you take your egg, you drop it in the water. If it sinks, then it's fresh. Excuse me. If it floats, it's not fresh, and I advise you not to use that egg. If it sort of bobs, it's still fresh. Okay, so take your egg and you want to break that into a cup. And then take a second egg and break that into a cup as well. I already tested this as fresh earlier, so I know it's fine. And then you want to lightly whisk your egg. I just use a fork. Once it looks nice and light yellow, then that should be enough for that. Okay, then what you're going to do is make some flavoured flour. Now it says in the recipe that you need 90 grams of plain flour. If you've got a measure, you can measure that out. If you don't worry. It's just twice as much of the corn as you put in for the corn flour. So what I'm going to do is put in 6 tablespoons of corn flour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay. Then what you're going to do is flavour your corn flour. So you want to put in, get yourself a teaspoon, and you want to put in half a teaspoon of garlic salt, or otherwise known as garlic granules. You want 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon, sorry, of salt. I'm not actually going to put that in because I find salt a wee bit overpowering, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Then you want half a teaspoon of pepper. I don't know where I put the pepper. It's here. That's roughly, I would say, about 3 shakes. Obviously, if you like it a bit more peppery, you can add a bit more pepper in if you like. And then the spice, some lovely paprika. And you want to put in 2 teaspoons if you like it quite spicy. If you don't like it spicy, you can put just 1 in. 2 teaspoons of paprika. I'm just going to double check I've got everything because I'm not used to doing this on camera. I do. Right, so once you've got that, what you want to do is mix up your flour. Unfortunately, this recipe is a bit wasteful because you need to get enough of the flour that you can, flour and egg, that you can dip the chicken or the cauliflower into it to get the batter onto it, which means that you end up with all this flour left over, an egg left over that's a bit yucky because it's had raw chicken in it. Right. Okay, so that's you getting ready to make your chicken. What I'd advise you to do next though is get the next bit ready, which is when you're going to go and make your sauce. So what I would advise you to do is start some of the sauce part. So the bit in the sauce part that I usually get on next to is the bit where you mix the teriyaki ketchup, the vinegar, the dark brown sugar and the tiny pineapple together. So that's step 7. Okay, so what you want to do is get your tomato ketchup. I was amazed when I found that this is what they put in sweet and sour sauce. Thanks to Caroline Patrick for telling me that. So what you want to put in is 150 millilitres. Now I believe that actually is 9 tablespoons. I could be wrong. Let's see. Oh, lovely. Just a second. Just take down. Okay, so that's 9. Let me just check and see if that's 150. Just slightly below, so I'm going to put a little bit more in. So 10 it was for me, but I think that's because I did a wee half in there. Normally 9 works for me. Okay, so you're putting your 9 tablespoons or 150 millilitres of tomato ketchup. You then want 2 tablespoons of malt vinegar. That's a rice starting to boil. So what I'm going to do is just turn my rice down and then I'm going to set 5 minutes. So that beeps, I'm going to switch my rice off and I won't end up with burnt rice. Okay, so 2 tablespoons now of malt vinegar. Then you want your 6 tablespoons of brown sugar. If you don't like it really sweet, I don't like it really sweet, so feel free not to put so much in. So I'm just actually going to put a couple of teaspoons in instead. Make it sweet. Sweeter than I like it. Obviously obviously the younger you are, you tend to like things sweet, so just see what you feel like. Just going to mix that all around. And then, fortunately, I opened my tin of pineapple, but open your tin of pineapple, put the juice from the pineapple in, from your tin, and you just cut up your pineapple chunks as well. Make them as chunky or as not chunky as you like. I'm just going to put them back in the tub just now. It's up to you whether you put them into the sauce ready for later. If you don't have a tub at hand, you can just put them back in the sauce. Just give that a mix up. Okay, so to do our chicken, I'm going to move everything else out of the way. So I don't want to get it all covered in chicken. And okay, so you want to get your surface going. So you simply put your chicken in at this side, it'll be raw. The raw chicken goes into your different mixes and then straight into your pan to fry, and then comes out and goes onto a plate, which I haven't got, excuse me. And back, so you get your plate. So what we're going to do is take our chicken and we're going to cut it into bite-sized pieces. Now at this point, you can use a knife on the chopping board. That's perfectly reasonable. But I'm going to use my scissors. Like Neil, I make lots of dishes when I'm cooking. So what I'm going to do is cut it into bite-sized bits. Not that easy to see. If you've had Chinese takeaway, you'll know what sort of size of chicken you like. Just to say at this point, if you are making it with the cauliflower, which is what some countries do, they don't actually have sweet and sour chicken, they have sweet and sour cauliflower. What you want to do is cut the cauliflower into about individual florets. So you want them nice and small so that they'll cook quickly in the batter. And if you're making it with cauliflower, what you can do is, or even if you're making chicken, if you'd rather not use all these bowls, what you can do is get a plastic bag, like a sandwich bag, put the cauliflower in one sandwich bag, get a second kind of sandwich bag and put the sent flour in the other, and then what you can do is just drop your pieces of chicken into each of the bags, seal them up and give them a good shake, and that will cover them. So you shake them in the cauliflower bag, then you dip them in the chicken, put them into the flavoured bag, give them a good shake up and put them into the tub. Right, because I've been touching chicken, I'm just going to move this over and we're going to get that right out of the way. Okay, so I want to get my oil and put that into the and then I am going to get my spatula. Okay, so now I'm going to wash my hands because I've just been touching the chicken. That's one of the downsides, is I do wash my hands a lot. Okay, so I'm just going to put the oil on to heat. That's our 5 minutes up for our rice. I'm going to switch the rice off and switch on this. No, I'm not. There you go. So put your heat up too high because you don't want to end up with a kitchen accident. Also at this point, it's probably a good idea if you're not used to frying, if you have someone with you who is. So you want to heat the oil until it gets really hot. So you want to move it around so it covers all of the pan. Turn it down so it doesn't get too hot. And just listen out for it. If it starts sizzling, then you might want to switch it off if you're not ready to put it in. So take your chicken, roll it in the corn flour till you can't see any pink. Then dip it in the egg till you can't see any white. Or you can see the white, but it's all covered in chicken. Then dump it into the flavoured salted flour. Leave it there. Take the next bit. Dump it in. Put it in the egg. Put it in the centre flour. Seasoned flour, sorry. Get your egg. Chicken. Get it in there. Do the exact same with the cauliflower. Put it in here. And put there. It has to be said that cauliflower is apparently a much lighter taste than Chinese. So if you find Chinese a bit heavy, try it with just the cauliflower. Now what you want to do is you want to fry this up in batches. So don't try and get all your chicken and get it all in one place at one go, because the pan will just get really, really sticky and you won't get your light batter on your chicken. Okay, so I'm going to just start off with 4. Just going to lay them in. You remember what order you put them in? Yeah. And then just leave them cook off. So you don't want to move them about, because what you're trying to do is get the batter to basically cook like pancake underneath the chicken. So if you move it about, it won't do that, it will just lose all its batter and you'll just end up with a sludge in the bottom of the pan. Then you need your fork, have that handy to help you turn over, and your spoon. Some people use their fingers, but I wouldn't recommend it, it hurts. While that's cooking up slowly, you do some more of the chicken. So into the corn flour, into the egg, into the seasoned flour. More flour you get on there, the thicker your batter's going to be. Corn flour. You get a picture. Egg. Seasoned flour. Okay, so it says it takes about 2 to 3 minutes every side. You should be able to see round about it. You'll see that the batter is going to kind of yellowy colour and it starts to look a bit pancakey. If it starts to smoke, just take it off the heat for a little bit and the smoke stops. Goes all about, but not the chicken. And you'll notice it starts to go a kind of brown colour, and that's when you know it's ready for you to try and turn it on over to the other side. Don't be tempted to cheat and look underneath and see, because you'll end up just breaking the batter and you'll end up with sludge. Okay, so the smoke stops, you can put it back on for a little bit. Okay. It's looking like it's kind of ready, yep. Turn that over, turn that over, turn that over, turn that over. Okay, so some of mine are quite big, so I'm going to end up doing the 4 sides rather than just doing one side. If your family have a deep fat fryer and you've got someone in the house who is happy for you to use that, or is happy to use it for you, you can obviously do this in a deep fat fryer. It's much quicker, but yeah, I'm not a fan. I find it quite scary. Okay, so it started to smoke, so I'll just take it off the gas again. So as you can see, I don't take one advice, I'm starting to move things about. Okay, so just going to put it onto its other side, seal it in. So once this is done, you shouldn't have any pink chicken showing. So you might have bits of white chicken showing, but the batter is not stayed on, that's fine. Just don't have any pink chicken because you want it perfectly sealed. So it will just cook, finish off cooking in the sauce later on. Okay, so that's my first batch done. I'm just going to transfer that now to the plate to cool off. And still got enough oil, so that's ready for the second batch. You just keep going like this until you've got all your pieces done. So I think hopefully I'll be able to cut this bit out. Okay, so that's me finished frying off all my chicken. So what I'm ready to do now is start on the sauce. Just check my rice. It's all nicely cooked, there's no water. So I'm just going to leave that covered. If you're going to make fried rice or you're going to make it tomorrow, well, if you're going to make it tomorrow and you prefer to start with cold rice, then what you need to do now is cool that rice as quickly as possible. If you're going to make it eat just now, I would just leave it now. That'll be fine. If you're going to just have boiled rice, then that's it ready to go once your sauce is ready to go. So what we're going to do now is prepare the ingredients for our sauce. So first thing we're going to do is chop up our garlic. So we need 2 cloves of garlic, so 2 bits of garlic, and I don't have a garlic mincer, so what I can do is just push it down, I chop, take the skin off, then keeping the toe of the knife, keep my fingers back from the knife edge, just cut it as finely as I can, and try not to concentrate so don't cut your own fingernail off. So squish. Push it down, get the hard edge off, get the skin off, and then take the knife edge down, just cut across it. And if you really want, you can leave it together and just cut some more. I don't normally do that, just a bit sliced, but there you go. Nicely minced. Get that off the side of your chopping board. And the next thing you'll need is your onions. Your onions are actually going in first. Just to say, I'm using the same pan, but what I did was wipe it off and washed it out, so I got rid of all the flour that was in there because it was getting a bit sludgy. You can leave it in if you like it really thick sauce, but that doesn't tend to be the same as when I tried it before. It wasn't quite the same as what you get from the Chinese. So if you clean it out, you'll get a much more runny, fresh sauce, I have found. So just now what we're going to do now is chop up my onion. So to chop off the onion, I don't actually know the best way of chopping the onion. I know you're supposed to leave the tail on. Get the skin off. Let's see if I can do this. Take the skin off. This off camera. Right, got the skin off. You then use the tail like a little handle. The first way to do it is you don't cut all the way to the tail, which is a little bit in from the tail. put the knife in and cut your slices. See, not something I'm that good at, but it was what I was taught to do at home economics. In secondary school, when you've done home economics, you've probably got a better technique by now. Okay, so that gives you a little onion fan. Still got your tail. Hold on to your tail and then just cut through. Now, it says to make the bits as big as you want. So sometimes when I get Chinese at the Chinese restaurant, it's like big quarters. If you like it that way, then do it that way. So you can cut this as big or as small as you like. But the Chinese restaurants tend to keep them quite big. So just a couple of bits in for a fan. Oh, my eyes are watering because my knife is not sharp enough. And then I'm just going to cut that one in half. And then just cut. I get some nice big chunky bits of onion. Okay, so the onion's going to go in first before anything else. So let me just light my... Okay. Then we're going to take some of our ordinary oil. And I run out of oil. In a second, so just open up the next bottle. Don't need as much oil as you put in for frying the chicken, just a little bit, just to coat it. Should be fine. Don't have your don't have your gas too high or your electricity setting too high. Then all you're going to put in is just the onions, nothing else. What you're going to do is just gently cook them until they go translucent, so when they look a bit glassy or see-through. Take up the bits of it. While that's cooking, the next thing you need to do is cut up your ginger, or if you're using ginger powder, then don't worry about this bit of chopping up the ginger. But if you're using fresh ginger, so we could have got some because it's quite hard to get hold of, then what you do is you take the skin off the ginger, and then you're supposed to mince it, but once again I don't have a mincer, so what I do is keep the knife edge, put it in slices, then take those slices, cut them into little matchsticks, then take those matchsticks and cut them into little squares. Once again, watching my fingers. Okay, so just keep moving your onions around. Try not to let them go brown. If the pan starts smoking, just take it off the heat for a little bit until it cools down again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take that off the heat completely and just let the onions carry on cooking, because the longer they cook without going brown, the sweeter they're going to be in your sauce. So next time what we're going to do is take our peppers. So we've got our onion and garlic ready to go in next. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prepare my peppers now. So I'm using one red, one green. Obviously if there's more of you might want to put in more than that. And I'm just going to cut them into sort of big parts, but put them in the other part of my chopping board, because these are going to go in at a slightly different time to the ginger and the garlic. And as you can hear, my onions are still cooking away nicely at the side there. Once again, that's going to be more about me not wanting to clean out a front pan. I'm sure your home economics teachers would not be very impressed. They would tell you to make up all your fruit and all your veg, cut it all up first, so you're ready just to put it in the pan when you're cooking. That is also acceptable and probably is what I would have done had I thought about it. Okay, so you can eat all of the pepper except for the seeds in the centre. Once again, make the bits as big as you like them. I'm going to make them into little squares, but I know sometimes I get the Chinese and they're just big long bits of paper. Okay, that's all chopped up, ready to go. We've already got our pineapple chopped up from earlier, and we've got our sauce made up. Okay, so my onions are starting to go translucent, so I'm just going to put my oil back on again. My onions. Turn it down. I'm just going to turn it around again just until it starts making a nice little sizzling noise. So that's the onions looking kind of translucent. I don't know if you can see my pan. Okay, so put the garlic and the ginger in a bit later. Next thing we're going to put in actually is the peppers. That's because if you cook the garlic and ginger too early, it goes a bit, just isn't quite as fresh and sweet tasting. We're just going to cook the peppers until they look nice and glossy. About a minute, it says in the recipe. I find it take me a bit longer. What I'm going to do is my chicken. Just going to move that over to this side for now. So it's nice and ready. Okay, I think that's looking nice and glossy. I'm going to do next, put in my garlic and ginger. Turn that around again. Once again, if your pan starts smoking, just take it off the heat. Stop smoking. Ooh. Try not to have things jump out the pan. Did just wash the cooker, so to hygiene it. Wouldn't normally do that if I was cooking for other people. Okay, you just want that to start to smell the ginger. If you've got powdered ginger, it'll really start smelling Just have a nice sort of ginger beer smell to it. Quite fragrant. Okay, then what we're going to add in is our sauce. Now, I made this sauce before and sent it to my friend June, who is one of the parents, and bemoaned the fact that my sauce was always really, really thick. And she pointed out the most obvious thing there is, which is if it goes too thick, put water in. So, if you excuse me, I'm just going to get some water. Add it to the same cup or whatever you were using for the sauce from earlier, because then it'll just wash off all that leftover goodness off, and just have that ready just in case it gets too thick. So, as always with this pan, it's going a bit thick, so I'm just going to add a little bit more water. Just so it kind of goes thick, but it's also still nice and runny. So I've got my pineapple in there. I'm starting to be able to smell the pineapple. You can still smell the ginger, but it is actually now starting to smell like sweet and sour chicken. I'm now going to add in my coated chicken into the pan, and then we're going to gently just mix that into the sauce. So just want it to have a nice little coating. Then let it cook. Normally at this point the dogs would be here watching me, begging for some chicken, but we've locked them out this time. Don't know what your dogs and cats are like, if they food beggars, but my ones are. Okay, so as you can see, hopefully you can see it's all gone nice and coated, and now it's just a case of cooking that to heat through that chicken and make it nice and hot. And that is sweet and sour chicken. Okay, and then if we just check our rice. Our rice is nice and ready. Get a clean fork and just fork it up, and that is lovely boiled rice ready to serve with the chicken. However, I believe I am now going to do another takeaway, which is how I make special fried rice.